Jelani Woods, touchdown, INDY!
A 43-point night for Tyrese Halliburton.
How do you like that, partner?
Renew now, drives in low, throws up a shot. It doesn't go. Tipped up and in by Anthony Leal. Indiana takes the lead.
It's pretty simple. I win. Google me.
Now, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Google me, baby. I hope you're having a great day and a great start to your week as we've hit the midway point. Appreciate you being with us here on this Wednesday. Kevin Brockway is going to join us. K-Bro. Been a minute since we've gotten to talk to K-Bro. Kyle Neddenriep as well. Lane Kiffin, he's not happy with Wake Forest buying out of their game next year. Sounds like something to cry about. Go find another game. Something he was complaining about. We'll hear from Kurt Cignetti today as Indiana takes on Charlotte this week in the fourth game of the season for the Hoosiers and their last non-con game. Elijah Surratt, he has a 28-game catch streak going on. Mr. Otani in the Major League Baseball, he's going for 50-50. I think that should Tunga Vailoa retire? I think it should, or he should. He's on his, fifth concussion out right now? Man, dude is, and his hip, the hip injury he had when he was with Alabama, that was brutal. How's everybody doing? Appreciate you joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Hope all is going well. And that your day is heading in the right direction. Pete, up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline, and everybody jumping in no matter how and where you're listening. Our affiliates around the state. 97.7 ESPN, the ref, always the right call down in Evansville. 104.7, 1230 a.m. The voice of the region, WJOB, and the only sports station in Fort Wayne, 1380 The Fan. Make sure you stay tuned after Indiana Sports Beat Radio for continued local content. And we appreciate you being with us here today as we're getting through the week, heading into week 4 of the college football season. Baseball slowly winding down. The Reds are doing what they do. They're just going to stay close, but that's going to be about it. Speaking of baseball, Jose Altuve, he gets tossed from a game for taking his cleat and his sock off. I don't know what he was showing, but I'm trying to prove a point. Nobody wants to see feet. I don't want to see feet. Can't stand seeing men's feet. No reason for it. No reason for it. But Tunga Vailoa is on the IR injured reserve list after his latest concussion. I just think that he should probably retire, man. It's just there's been too many hits. Those are bad hits. In the ACC, Florida State and Clemson renew talks on revenue distribution. Talks between Clemson and Florida State and the ACC have ramped back up in recent weeks, according to sources, on a proposal that would allot a greater share of revenue to schools based on brand valuation and television ratings, as well as potentially alter the expiration of the league's grant of rights, which currently runs through the 2026 season, in exchange for the Tigers and Seminoles dropping their lawsuits against the conference. According to multiple sources within the league, the conversations are preliminary and the sides are not close to an agreement, but the conversations represent strong signal that both Florida State and Clemson are open to remaining in the conference under more favorable financial terms. Of course, money talks, baby. Money talks. The proposal, which was formulated by Clemson and Florida State and discussed by the league's presidents during Tuesday's regularly scheduled meetings, includes additional money going to the schools with better ratings. Well, that won't be Florida State right now, Florida State, because you suck. They're terrible. They're terrible in football, and I don't know what they're going to be like in basketball, but yeah, I'm not sure what they're going to be banging on right now because their football program in the tank. Preseason top 10 team, and they gone. I don't know. Have they won a game yet? I don't think that they have. Looking ahead to this week, looking forward to this week's games on the college football docket. See some good ones, baby. Kind of wrapping up the final some people will be wrapping up the non-con portion of their season, like Indiana, after having one game so far in conference play. But some teams schedule play all three of their non-con games in a row. It just depends on how it works out. And I think for a lot of teams, it's nice to get a mix. You dip your toe into conference play, and then you get to come back. But one of the biggest games in the Big Ten Conference this week, Illinois and Nebraska. And I am looking forward to that game. It'll be 8 o'clock on Fox. Number 24, Illinois. Number 22, Nebraska, freshly into the rankings. Both of those teams, both looking good. That's going to be just a fist fight. Like we talked about it yesterday with Greg Smith. I mean, you have to like Nebraska here. Number one, I think that they're a little bit more offensively minded, but still tough on defense, and they're at home. They'll be setting up for their 400th sellout. 400, baby. That's a lot of sellouts in a row. I've been to that stadium. It's a cool place to go. It's one of the coolest places to go for college football. Great college town. They love their football. And it's just one of the great college towns, Lincoln, Nebraska. Also on tap now that Illinois-Nebraska game is a Friday night game, don't forget. So, which is kind of cool because you get to watch, look forward to getting to watch that game without it being interrupted. That'll probably be one of the only games I get to see because of covering the Hoosiers on Saturday as they finish up their non-con schedule against Charlotte, like I said. But other games coming up on Saturday, a little local interest. Louisville back at it after being off. They're 2-0. They're ranked number 19. They're going to host Georgia Tech, who is looking good. Ohio State at number 3. Also with a bye last week, they host mighty Marshall. We are Marshall. We are getting our butts kicked is what it should say this week. That's 12 o'clock on Fox. That'll be up against the Indiana game. Number 21, Clemson, taking on North Carolina State, who kind of has dropped from the list of expected good teams. Penn State still hanging in there at number 10 somehow. They're hosting Kent. Big Ten matchup of the weekend. There's a couple of good Big Ten matchups. USC travels to Michigan. UCLA traveling to LSU. Woo, that's going to be ugly. Miami of Ohio to Notre Dame. Utah to Oklahoma State. We'll have to get the rest of the Big Ten games in there as well. We'll talk about all those and much more, and we'll catch you up on what's going on in high school around the state of Indiana as well with Kyle Neddenriep when he joins us. So looking forward to that as well as, big recruiting weekend for Indiana. As a matter of fact, today, not only that, today is Indiana Basketball Media Day, so we'll be out there talking to players, the coaches. We'll have just tons of stuff coming up from that. But that IU Basketball Media Day is today. here in Bloomington. And then in a couple of weeks, we've got Big Ten Media Days rather. What I call it that for IU? IU Basketball Media Day is today. Big Ten Media Day in a couple of weeks. So basketball coming up as well. All kinds of stuff happening. But we'll be there to cover that for you. And that and plenty more. But this is a huge, huge recruiting weekend for Indiana as Braylon Mullins is coming in. Trent Sisley coming up from Montverde Academy. And you've got Eric Ribe coming in, the big man, the big 7-footer, who basically taking the place of Malachi Moreno. Now, I was reading something from a Kentucky outlet last night, and which I found kind of funny. Although Kentucky is one of the few visits that he is keeping. He has canceled a visit, I believe, with Duke and with somebody else. But the Kentucky visit in late October is one that he is keeping, which is about a month later from right now. Or actually, it's about 5 weeks later. It's probably while the Midnight Madness thing that they do down there, which they've got Malachi Moreno, and Malachi Moreno is recruiting him hard, very hard. But in this particular publication, it said that most thought that Kentucky was the favorite, had been the favorite. And I'm like, what are you talking about? That is not anything I had heard or seen any place else outside of that particular post. So I'm not sure about that. But he has interest from UConn, from Kansas, from everybody. North Carolina was a visit, I think, that was canceled by Braylon Mullins. So, but we'll certainly find out. It's a big recruiting weekend, like I said, as Indiana getting that trio of guys that they would like to have all three of them. Can they hang on to Braylon Mullins? That's going to be, tough to do. He's being courted by everyone, and we'll certainly see. I know there was some talk of whether he can play alongside of one of Kentucky's latest recruit commitments, and that is what had given some second thoughts to a lot of people, and including the Mullins, about keeping the Kentucky visit. But Mark Pope got on the phone and kept things in order. And so he'll be visiting there after all. So that's going to be an interesting one. As Kentucky making a very, very hard push and having Malachi Moreno on that commitment. Now, that was supposed to have worked for Indiana, that they were going to try to recruit each other to the Hoosiers. Well, now the Wildcats have the leg up, so to speak, and already having the commitment of Malachi Moreno from that Indiana elite team, in which Braylon Mullins and Trent Sisley all played together on. So we're going to see if that has any bearing whatsoever. I still have Braylon Mullins going to Indiana, but man, he is being pulled in all directions, and all those directions are good ones. Like I said, UConn is one that is thought to be very, very high up, but of course, why would they not be? Back-to-back national champions. Are they going to win 3 in a row? Yeah, I don't know. But you know what they've done the last couple of years? They've done what national champions do. They've put guys into the NBA, multiple guys in the NBA. That is something that I keep banging on. And yeah, I know that Indiana's put a guy in, at least a guy in each year. But national champions are putting more than one guy in a year to the NBA. You have to have multiple entrants. No national champion that I'm aware of had a roster that had less than 4 NBA draft picks on it in the last, I'd have to go past the previous 6 years to see how far back it goes, but at least the last 6 years, no team has won the national championship that did not have a minimum of 4 NBA draft picks on the roster at the time of the national championship. Now, that doesn't mean all 4 of those guys get drafted in the same year. They may get drafted in the following year, but they were on the roster at the time of the national championship. Does Indiana have 4 NBA draft picks on the roster? Very, very possible, because Mackenzie Mbako, Kanan Carlisle is already mentioned right now. What happens with Umar Ballo, and then next year. So they could fall into that category. We'll have to see if how that bears out. But recruiting, this is the first true big Indiana recruiting battle for Mike Woodson. He has not forayed into it until now, his 4th season at the helm of Indiana. I mean, it's not that he hasn't, not a lot, and it's kind of behind recruiting the state of Indiana, and it just took a while to dig in. There wasn't a great class last year, but now this season has a plethora of good players, and we'll see how it ends up for the Hoosiers. We've got tons coming up. K-Bro's going to join us. We'll be back with that and much more right after this.
This segment is brought to you by the Rusty Gator in Bedford, where oceanic flavors meet southern charm. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door. If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@IndyHomePros.com.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouth-watering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off of your first order.
This segment is brought to you by Freethink Apparel.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday. Appreciate you being with us. Looking forward to Kevin Brockway joining us here in a little bit and talk about the Big Ten, man. And it's going to be a battle. There's going to be, while it seemed to be top heavy with Ohio State, and then you can argue, is it USC? Is it Kevin Brockway?
How are you?
Okay, bro. Wanted to bring you in before I got too deep into what I was talking about, but how are you doing, brother?
How was LA? Looks like it was a rousing game for the Hoosiers.
It was definitely a success for Indiana, without question. They had a successful trip, but it was also successful because I still don't know, an exact number of Indiana fans, but I've seen the number between 6,000 to 10,000. I don't know if there were 10,000. It's kind of hard to tell in the Rose Bowl because it's so large. It's hard to get an accurate, eyeball gauge on it. But there were a lot of people there, and they all stayed, and it was a blast. It was fun, even from a journalist perspective, when you're covering something special like that. Indiana football and success are not usually in the same sentence together, but definitely is the case now. And it's something that is expected to be the case. It's the expectation, not the exception. So that's something else that's quite different as well.
Yeah, no, quite. I mean, I saw the pictures on social media, and it was impressive. I'm guessing that probably some people made the trip, but I'm guessing there's a pretty good alumni base out there in Southern California too that probably was out there as well. But it was a very impressive crowd, and Kurt Cignetti is a guy that's beginning to garner some national attention here, just in terms of the job he's done down there and how he's transformed that program. And listen, Tom Allen had a little pocket of success too, but I think with Kurt Cignetti, it looks like he's building a foundation that, we'll see if he could sustain it. I mean, I think that's, getting there is one thing, but staying there is another. But it's fun right now in the building process to have that kind of success.
Well, and you make a valid point, and Tom Allen had a cup of coffee of success as well, but he had guys that were he was surrounded by great coaches. And not that Kurt Cignetti doesn't have good coaches around him, but the difference is you can tell that Kurt Cignetti has a plan. Kurt Cignetti has a plan that has worked already in the past of success. He comes in with head coaching success, where Tom Allen came in with zero head coaching experience, much less a successful plan that had been proven to work. Kurt Cignetti's been saying it from day one. Google me, baby. And because he ain't lying, and he's backing it up.
Does he call his plays? Or
if you can do it, it ain't bragging.
Yeah. Does he call his own plays, or does he have an offensive coordinator, or how does that?
I think that that's either Shanahan or I'd say Shanahan's probably calling the plays.
Well, it's pretty good to have a Shanahan calling the plays. I mean, there's a Kyle Shanahan up in San Francisco. Mike Shanahan was pretty good back in the day. Yeah. If you think about it, I mean, that's a pretty good family when you're talking about play callers. Because of their offensive acumen, for sure. That's a pretty good history. So, you surround yourself with good assistants. I mean, that makes all the difference in the world. I mean, the problems down here at Florida, I've always felt like Billy Napier was kind of a sharp guy, but I don't think he surrounded himself with very good assistant coaches. And he's been very stubborn as well, not giving up the play calling, or there's some questions this year, but as to who's calling the plays, he's kind of let some other guys sprinkle in here and there, but ultimately that's too much on your plate as an SEC coach.
Indiana has averaged beating their first three opponents by a score of 50 to 7.5 points. That's a nice spread.
No, pretty good. What will be an interesting gauge for Indiana is I think LSU plays UCLA this week.
Right.
So the final score of that game and compare it to what the final score of Indiana was, and that'll be a pretty good gauge, I think, as to maybe where Indiana is in terms of some of the heavyweights that they're going to encounter later in the Big Ten schedule.
Yeah, I agree with you. That game is at LSU, but also LSU is in need of an attention getter as well. So I would not expect them, I would not be surprised, I guess I should say, if they end up scoring even more points than Indiana did, because they need the attention. They haven't exactly lived up to what a lot of people thought that they were going to be, even though they've got some wins. Some of those have been very tight.
No question. No, I mean, South Carolina, they went in there and they were trailing and they had to get a furious comeback there to pull that game out. So it's been it's been an interesting early stretch in the SEC. I think, Georgia had a scare against Kentucky after Kentucky looked terrible against South Carolina. So, and certainly Florida looks terrible right now. I mean, that game did not go as I expected. I thought Florida was going to be able to run the football on Texas A&M. Said it was the complete opposite. They're calling for Billy Napier's head down here in Gainesville. I thought I was going to be writing a story on Sunday. That turned out not to be the case, but I think it's inevitable. It's not a question of if, or it's going to be a question of when they pull the plug on this regime, because it's, they trailed by 28 points in the second half against Miami at home and 26 points in the second half against Texas A&M. I mean, I've never seen that lack of competitiveness from a Florida team in the swamp, no less, at home. That just tells you where this program is right now. And, it doesn't seem like it's progressing down here. It seems like it's regressing. And when you see that, I know it's pretty obvious to the fan base and the media, then you got to wonder if a move will be made. And I think the next loss, perhaps in Mississippi State and Starkville would signal the end of this era down here.
Yeah, and it's, of course, as soon as that stuff starts popping, when coaches start losing jobs or started going on the hot seat at places like Florida, who are very big time names, fans at places like Indiana are going to start to get nervous about a coach having success at Indiana, and there's probably some truth to that. But then again, I don't know. With Cignetti 62, if he would want to move again, but in this era, it's easier to re-jump a program. Look how quickly he's done it in Indiana. I mean, boom, it's like sprinkling some magic dust.
Well, Cignetti, if he has a good agent, he could always use his leverage, right? Like, to get a better deal. Because right now,
he's going to get a better deal after this year. I'll guarantee you that.
Right now, I don't know what his salary is, but I'm sure that he could bump it up. No, one of the candidates here that people have floated is another guy who went to a basketball school and had success. Although, he's kind of struggling a little bit this year, but his first 2 years at Kansas, and that's Lance Leipold, is a guy that they're talking about a little bit here. Of course, they want Lane Kiffin. Everyone wants Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, but Lance Leipold Kansas they're having a fall off right now.
That's what I mean. Yeah, but his first 2 years, the track record was pretty good, and he walked into a situation that was pretty difficult down there.
Very dire.
And he's got
Kansas is like Indiana in football.
Yeah,
they both, the programs stunk. Let's just be honest.
Sure. And everyone here wants Lane Kiffin. I mean, I think one of the problems now with this college football playoff is, say they get in the college football playoff, and then you've got signing day, you've got the winter portal period. Do you punt all that and wait for the coach? That's a big problem now in this college football playoff era with some of the candidates. It's like, do you wait on guys? What if, and I floated this out here too. What if Ohio State loses the Big Ten this year? I don't think they're going to lose it to Michigan, but what if they lose it to, say, USC or one of the West Coast teams, Oregon, or some team of that nature? I mean, does Ryan Day, has he worn out his welcome in Ohio State? And if so, I mean, is that a guy that Florida can go after? He was a GA under Urban Meyer here back in 2005, and bring Chip Kelly with him. I think that would be a a splash hire down here and get the spread back to Gainesville, which has been successful under Urban Meyer and Dan Mullen.
Can you imagine a Kurt Cignetti at an Ohio State? Woo.
If the dominoes fell and
I don't know that you. I mean, he's been so successful at Ohio State. I don't know that you fire him. Like, give me a. It's like, guys, it's not like he can't coach. I mean, you're just not going to win every year. It's not going to happen. Someone is going to lose.
Big Ten in 2 or 3 years, though. I think that's the issue.
Yeah, well, I think we had
he's got a $20 million NIL payroll. I mean, he's got a significant advantage over the rest of the league in terms of resources. So
this year's a telling year. There's no doubt. I mean, the question is a legit question, because going up against Michigan last year and all the stuff that was floating around with that, I think you get a little break there because of all of that. But this year's a telling year. Yeah, I agree. He needs to win the Big Ten because they're the best team in the Big Ten right now, it appears. Yeah. But I don't know who the second best team is. Oregon has not looked like the second best team in the one of the top 2 conferences. And I know they're a top 10 team, but that's in name. Their first 2 games were struggles, but that didn't get reflected in the polls. They were still allowed to hang around. I think USC may be the second best team in the Big Ten, honestly. And exactly. We'll certainly find out. But there are going to be other teams that might rise up and become just as good as those teams. Teams like Nebraska, teams like Indiana. We don't know how good Indiana can be. I'd sit there and talk about this every day, and I know it sounds nuts, but when I look at their schedule, there's only one team on their schedule, Kevin, that I'm painting in with an L, and that's at Ohio State. There's no other team, and they've got 9 games remaining. I cannot imagine that they're not favored in 8 of the 9. First of all, just saying that, I'm waiting for somebody to slap me in the back of the head and say, what the hell is wrong with you? But it's true. There's not a game that I can imagine them not being favored in other than the Michigan game. Unless Michigan State continues to play at that level they are, maybe at Michigan State, but that would be a little surprise.
They don't play Penn State, but what's the thought on Penn State in the Big Ten? I'm looking, they kind of...
That's another big question mark.
Struggled a little with Bowling Green. They beat West Virginia. I think they're another team too. But James Franklin is an interesting guy too. He's getting a lot of money at Penn State, though. I think he's pretty secure there. But would Florida make a push at James Franklin? I think Florida needs to go for a name here because of they've tried the up and comer route. It hasn't worked. Some people are talking about Jamie Chadwell at Liberty, but I think he would be another Napier type hire where you don't know if a group of 5 guy can go to this level and have success. I think you need a more proven commodity here per se, but Indiana went the group of 5 route and they found the right group of 5 guy. That's what it looks like. They found a guy who can have a lot of success.
Absolutely. And Brian's saying that Indiana won't be favored against Nebraska and Michigan, and I disagree for a couple of reasons. Number one, when they take on Nebraska, Indiana will be undefeated, or my expectations. They'll be 6-0. Nebraska might be 6-0 as well, but you're not going to favor Nebraska over an undefeated Indiana team at home. And then if that is the case, Michigan is they're starting to circle the drain a little bit. They're having quarterback issues. They don't know who their quarterback is really going to be, and they're not looking that good. So I disagree. I think Indiana will be favored in both, and we'll certainly find out. And I'll be the first one to say I was wrong if that's not the case.
And that defense under Wink Martindale didn't look very good against Texas. So I think that's another thing, too, that they lost a lot on both sides of the football. Very similar to like Florida State, too. When you lose a lot of guys, there's no guarantee of replenishment.
Absolutely. And something else Indiana is getting this year is across the board, solid coaching. solid decision making. And that's a huge difference. They're not making coaching mistakes. They're not going to call a play. They're not going to have a 4th and 1 play on the goal line and call a running play that starts 7 yards deep in your backfield. They're not going to make little subtle mistakes that cost you games. And that is a huge difference. There's a plan going in. Every opponent there's a different plan, where I don't think that was the case before. I think it was the same old. Here, we're going to line up. This is what we're going to do every week, where right now that's not the case. That's being custom tailored for each opponent.
And, it's amazing because football is such a motivation and effort game, right, Jim? And I mean, you played it at the high school level. And when you talk to former players about coaches, they say, if you have a plan and it works, players are going to go the wall for you. And you see it in the other direction here in Florida, where you lose that buy-in really quick when you don't have success and you don't have that same kind of effort and motivation. So, I mean, for Cignetti to start 3-0, I think that's huge because you get the buy-in, you get the effort, you get the extra, effort on a play that's needed, that's required in order to, raise your level of game. I mean, I think that's the hugest thing is to get that, to have that buy-in, because it's such a momentum game. You got to have that success, and you got to have a plan that the players believe in and the players know works. I think that's really the key to coaching today. You can have all the rah-rah speeches you like, but if you don't have the results and if the players know that the plan isn't working, they're going to tune you out really quick.
As someone that, you've covered Indiana, but also nationally covering college athletics, football, basketball, whichever, and now in a different conference covering other things. What is the view looking back at Indiana right now, the thought, the beliefs of where they are?
No, I think right now it's been an interesting roller coaster because of the fact that, like you said, you had this, era with, Tom Allen and Mike Penix and Micah McFadden, but it didn't sustain. Obviously, Tom Allen had a window and it didn't work. And I think what you have right now with Kirk Cignetti is a guy that's maybe building more of a foundation, something that's, has the potential to be more sustainable. But, you got to see. And in the transfer portal era, I think that's hard, Jim, because of the fact that you have so much turnover. It can be easier for a non-traditional program in a way to bring in that instant talent. But you got to build the foundation around it too. So I think recruiting is going to be very important. And again, that's, when you have success, when you have buy-in, right, that helps with recruiting. Players want to go to a team that's on the rise, and you have to be able to capitalize that. But you have to be able to get the right kids. I think that was probably a problem with Tom Allen too in his era, was the fact that, when he had that little 2-year window, probably, maybe didn't capitalize on the recruiting aspect of it. And then, like a guy like Dason McCullough, even when you got him, right, you didn't have the season to back it up. And then he leaves for the transfer portal after 1 year because you have a 2-10 season followed by a 4-8 season. And, players aren't going to stick around. They're going to want to go to programs where they can win and where they can get that exposure.
Absolutely. So we're looking forward to that and lots more. We've got more to talk about. Our friend Capro is with us. Hopefully he can stick around for just one more segment. We'll talk about his Mets. Here come the Mets. Here come the Mets. Yes. The Reds aren't doing much, but and it's a big weekend of basketball as far as visits for Indiana. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio coming to you from the Hard Truth Studios right after this.
Segment is brought to you by the Ugly Grouper.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouth-watering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Rebesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Know a team or group needing a fundraiser? Boost Fundraising raises more money faster and offers the most unique and user-friendly online fundraiser in the nation. Your team receives personalized fundraising pages for each team member. Free team-branded promo gifts shipped to each donor. Boost Fundraising does it all. Sports teams, marching bands, charity causes, and community groups. Go to boostfundraising.com and be sure to enter the promo code COYLE, that's COYLE, to receive a discounted fundraiser.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
This segment is brought to you by Hoosier Hanks East.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Studios as Kevin Brockway joins me.
Hard truth.
Deliver the hard truth, baby.
You can't handle the truth, right?
You want the truth? You can't handle the truth, much less the hard truth. But you should, because it's good stuff. Hey, you know, Hard Truth Distilling Company products down there in Florida, K-Bro.
How about that? We'll have to try some sometime, you know?
Yeah, go out. The next time you're out, look around. I promise you, the grocery stores, your beverage stores, adult beverage stores, Hard Truth, man. What's your fancy? What do you consume as far as liquor?
You know, I'm like more of a rum and coke guy, believe it or not, down here.
Well, they have a great toasted coconut rum, baby. Award winning.
Yeah, that sounds really good. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
well, telling you, go out and get yourself a bottle of that and send a picture of yourself with it. I'm telling you, you will love it. It is award winner and good.
I'll put it on your tab, Jim.
You know what? I would love for you to do that as an appreciation for seriously. As you stopping by and visiting with us, absolutely. We'll Venmo you the return for that without question.
We did have a good time that night. What was that? That Howl at the Moon during the NCAA tournament, man. That was
a long day too.
I was hurting the next on the flight trip home. That was a lot of fun.
Oh man, returning from California is tough. It was amazing. I went after the game and after finishing up the post-game show Saturday. Of course, it was late in our world, but out on the West Coast, it wasn't, because that was a 4:30 game out there.
Yeah.
And I thought that there would be a lot of IU fans out celebrating in Pasadena afterwards, and it either wasn't the case or they did it immediately and went right home, because by the time I got there, I didn't really see that
that much.
Did
now,
you get time to stop by Pauley Pavilion at all and see the?
Actually, I have a first. It's funny you should say that. I wish I would have thought to send this to Skylar to get this up. I'll have to think about this tomorrow. But I have a first look at the. I'll try to send this to him. At Pauley Pavilion's new floor since they've joined the Big Ten.
How about that?
Yeah, the repaint and all that. I'll have to see if we can get that up. Boom. Yeah. I will forward that to, I'm going to, and there's a statue, of course, of, oh my goodness, John Wooden from right up the road there in Martinsville. But, yeah, I'm going to send this over to Skylar and see if we can get this up, because this is kind of an exclusive, with the new Pauley Pavilion. Now, that's a place I can't wait to go. I'm looking very much forward to going to Pauley Pavilion. A lot of history there.
Yep. Indiana, when do they play UCLA? Have they come out with the schedule yet or no? Or
actually, they don't play there this year. I think UCLA comes to Bloomington.
Oh, very good. Very good. Should be pretty good. Yeah, I was I commented on one of your shows about was this the biggest win for Indiana against UCLA since the game in the Checker Dome, right? 1975 to start the 75-76 season in St. Louis. That was certainly a big one, the beginning of the undefeated season.
Yeah, this is a huge win. Indiana football has started 6-0 only one time ever. And
Contierna, 68.
Well, in 1945, they won the Big Ten championship and they were undefeated. And in 1967, when they went to the 68 Rose Bowl, that's the year I think they had a tie in like their second game.
Oh, okay.
So only one time that they started the season with 6 straight wins. And I think that they do that again this year. The team that did it in 1945 had George Taliaferro on it, Ted Kluszewski on it, was an undefeated Big Ten champion for Indiana. But they're doing things that they have just hasn't happened ever.
And of course, Ted Kluszewski went on to play for the Cincinnati Reds, right? Baseball guy. And nice job by your Red Legs beating the Braves last night, giving our Metropolitans a 2-game lead on the wild card standings. I appreciate that, Jim.
Yeah, well, you're welcome. The Mets a little bit of a surprise, man. People been hoping and waiting for them to come on, but they thought it was going to be last year, and then yet it is this year.
Oh, it's been a lot of fun, and 11 games left. But as a Met fan, you always kind of have to. You always wait for the other shoe to drop. But this team, and Lindor got hurt this past week, but they brought up this kid from AAA, Luis Angel Acuna, Ronald Acuna's younger brother, who they got in the Max Scherzer trade. And he looked pretty good last night, 3 for 4 with a home run and playing a good shortstop. So you just got to keep your fingers crossed and hope it keeps going. He got one more game with the Nationals, or as I like to call them, the Trashionals tonight, and then 4 with the Fold and Phils, the Phillies, who are probably going to win the division, but you still want to stay competitive with them and maybe see them in the playoffs and get them in October when it counts.
Yeah, I don't think it matters what the Reds do, but the Reds keep doing just enough just to keep you looking. And it's like I can't believe they've lost as much as they've lost. Which
Dela Cruz is an exciting player to watch, though, right? Don't you think? Dela Cruz is a pretty exciting player to watch.
Exactly. That's what's some of the things that they've accomplished this year. It's like, wow, it'd be nice if they were on a winning team.
Yeah, no question. And Preston Green, didn't he hurt his shoulder or something like that? Is he still pitching or no? Or
you know what? I've been so busy, I haven't been able to keep up with them. When they're toiling, I'm like, I don't have time for it. Indiana football, getting back to that, the ability that they've been able to do this with, with a lot of these mid-major transfers. There was a lot of talk that was Indiana going to be able to compete with you got the 13 JMU transfers, you got guys coming from Old Dominion, your quarterback and leading receiver came from Miami of Ohio, not Florida. So yeah, it's all been working. It's the Jimmy and the Joes, but it's also the X's and the O's.
Oh yeah, no question. I think that in the portal, some of it's fit too, right? An opportunity, for sure. I remember seeing that Omar Cooper's doing pretty well too. I remember watching him right at a North Lawrence basketball game, and he played basketball like a football player. Like I remember watching him. He's a tough kid. So I think he's done a pretty good job with guys that he's inherited too, as well. And certainly Donovan McCulley's a pretty talented guy too. So I think you've got some guys there maybe that you inherited that's okay as well and that you can sprinkle in. But certainly the newcomers have helped for sure.
Absolutely. And looking forward to seeing how that continues to go. But it's not that I expect. There you go. There's that Poly Pavilion floor, bro.
Oh, let me see. How about that? Yeah, no, that's amazing. It's
got the Big Ten and the free throw lanes. That is that's I think that's an exclusive. That's not. I don't think that's been released yet. No comment on how I managed to get that.
It's a classic looking arena, basketball arena for sure. A lot of history there, and
it doesn't look like that it's that old.
No,
they've been playing in Poly for a long time, though, right?
Well, they did a renovation, I think, a couple of years ago. So they modernized it.
It just doesn't look old.
Yeah, but I think that's because they modernized. They put the chairbacks in and everything, and they're doing what a lot of other basketball arenas are doing now. They've just spruced it up and made it look nicer.
Russell wants to see Oregon's new floor. I'm not sure I can handle that right now. Just kidding. Thank you very much, Skylar. What were we?
You were talking about Indiana's, their ability to go out in the portal and get guys that fit what Curt Cignetti wants to do.
What does it say about Tannis is still fully Mitchell Page level hyped? Well, that's 11-1, baby. Mitchell's on the 11-1 train, which as crazy as that sounds, that is a possibility. That's Indiana's got to play their top football. They've got a Nebraska team that will come in probably undefeated. Kevin, we're probably going to have a 6-0 Indiana team hosting a 6-0 Nebraska team. That is going to be wild.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun. You'll probably have, at least at big noon kickoff. Maybe you'll have them there.
Absolutely.
You'll probably have Fox there. Maybe you'll have ESPN Game Day there as well.
Game Day. I keep telling people, Game Day is not coming to a premier Big Ten event.
Yeah. They went to Texas, Michigan, but that's because of Texas, I guess.
That was a mixture. That's because Texas more than anything.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's how that goes. But I wonder, Ryan Walters at Purdue, things not looking good for him. Picked by the media to finish last in the conference in his second season. And then you've got a guy down the road in Bloomington who is, I'm predicting, wins Big Ten Coach of the Year and potentially National Coach of the Year, depending on what Indiana does.
Yeah, and that was an embarrassment against Notre Dame, and especially when you consider the fact that Notre Dame had lost to Northern Illinois. That does not look good for Ryan Walters up in Purdue and his situation up there. I mean, they just got trounced, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, brother, I cannot thank you enough. As always, I appreciate you and look forward to doing this again soon.
Yeah, Jim. Hey, pleasure is all mine, and wish you guys well up there. Should be interesting, to see how Curt Cignetti can keep this going, and it'll be a fun ride in the Big Ten for sure for you guys.
Kevin Brockway, K-Bro joining us here on the program. Great friend of the show. Appreciate you so much, buddy. We've got lots more coming up here from the Hard Truth Studios, and we'll be back for it right after this break.
This segment is brought to you by the Fresh Fork in Bloomington.
In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer. The Ugly Grouper, located on beautiful Anna Memorial in Florida, is the place to be, and not just because they have unforgettable meals, including locally sourced seafood. The Ugly Grouper has your favorite craft beers and cocktails, along with live music every day. The Ugly Grouper is family-friendly, able to host private parties, and has the biggest grouper you've ever seen. The Ugly Grouper is the place to be on Anna Memorial in Florida. Tell them Indiana Sports Beat sent you. Go to theuglygrouper.com for more information.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf Community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details. This segment is brought to you by the Fresh Fork in Bloomington.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday. Hopefully Cal Neddenriep will join us soon. Skyler, hope you send him the link. Kyle from the IndyStar, of course. Get caught up on the weekend of high school action. We'll hear from Kurt Cignetti as well. And it's a gigantic weekend of visits for Indiana basketball, as Braylon Mullins, Trent Sisley, and Eric Ribe will all be in. One of the nation's top shooting guards, and Braylon Mullins, one of the nation's top wings, and Trent Sisley down at Montverde Academy now, and one of the nation's top big men in 7-footer Eric Ribe. That would be a group that Indiana would love to get, but there are several others that the Hoosiers are chasing and have offered. Jalen Harrelson, of course, also one of the top 10 ranked guards in the country. Indiana is coveting as well. So what can they pull out of all of this? We'll find out. But Trent Sisley is going to be a big question mark. I think that he's going to be the toughest to land of the in-state guys, because Purdue has done a hell of a job recruiting him. Matt Painter has just out-recruited on that. I don't know how it ends up. We'll certainly find out. But that's going to be a big question.
Southern Indiana guy. Indiana's usually just automatically gets those guys. But we saw with Trey Kaufman-Renn was the first of that, but that had more to do with Archie Miller, to be honest with you. He didn't want to come play for Archie Miller, and I understand who would have at that point. Not many. We'll see what the change is like, and if Trenton wants to come to Indiana or if he's been recruited away. It doesn't matter. I mean, you should respect any and all these decisions these kids make, because they're making decisions which are best for them, not what's best for any fans. And that won't be a problem for me, certainly. Braylon Mullins, man, no one's recruiting shot up more than his did over the early part of this summer, spring and summer, as he became the love of everyone all of a sudden in UConn and Kansas and North Carolina and Kentucky. All the big boy, Duke, all the big boys came calling. Indiana in early and often on him, though. So what, did that work out? Did it work? We'll see. Not sure. Not. It's just, there's no way to predict, and I'm not going to try to predict. Russell says that Queen to Maryland, Flag to Duke, Liam McNeil to UConn. He read this morning, or Moreno to Kentucky, Mullins to IU, Sisley to Purdue. Well, the other things have already happened. I would not be surprised by that very layout, though. So we'll see. Kyle Neddenriep from the IndyStar joins us now. Kyle, how are you, brother?
I'm all right, Jim. How are you?
Cannot complain. How's your Tigers doing?
They're the hottest team in baseball, so not bad.
Hey, it's always a good thing, man. Love to see it. Love to hear it. How was your weekend?
It was good. I covered Warren Central, Lawrence Central, and Warren still has not allowed a point yet this season. They won 35-0. So, 4-0 and no points allowed is pretty amazing. They've got Ben Davis this weekend, and, I don't think they'll shut them out. But, at this point, I think it's kind of a source of pride for that defensive line, that defense. And, that defensive line is really, really outstanding. And, so we'll see. I think they're a serious contender. I don't know if they'll continue this streak, which is highly unusual in this day and age of spread offenses and lots of points. So it's pretty unique, really.
Yeah, even in high school, it's hard to keep teams off of the board. I mean, even with getting a field goal or something, and to do it 4 games in a row, very, very impressive. And I guarantee you, any defense in the world, they'll not only take pride in it, like you just mentioned, but it will fuel them to want to do that more every game.
Yeah, I mean, it was funny. Friday, they had the running clock was going through pretty much through the fourth quarter. Start of the fourth quarter, they got it to 35, and LC got the ball, and went from about their own 15 down to about the 13-yard line of Warren. There was a penalty that put the ball there, and it was the defensive starters. The second team was in the game for Warren, and LC had their first team offense still in. Warren's defense was basically begging Mike Kirshner to put them back in the game to preserve the shutout. And he's like, he's saying, no, it's it's not that big a deal. Don't telling his coaches not to do anything, not to react to the players, the first teamers wanting back in. Luckily for Warren, the clock ran out before LC could get off another play because of the running clock. So there was no last chance there to score a touchdown. So they preserved the shutout, and it'll probably end up, who knows, the streak. It was, I think, good the streak didn't end like in that meaningless situation. But like I said, I'd be surprised if they could get through Ben Davis without allowing a point. But who knows? Ben Davis a little bit down this year, so we'll see.
Yeah, surprisingly too. Thought a little bit more out of Ben Davis, but that's what happens when you're the reigning champ. So, has that been one of the biggest surprises that they've fallen off a little bit after winning that?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect this. I guess they did have a quarterback change. That's always a big. I think when you're talking about the highest level of 6A, that's always a thing to look at because you bring in a quarterback without experience. That's that's kind of a tough thing to do sometimes. But yeah, I mean, their linebacking crew was pretty much all graduated. And that was a very good. Those linebackers were all very good. Nyland Brown ended up going to Kent State. Kind of leading that group. But yeah, I mean, it really is kind of surprising even still. Losing to Avon in overtime, that was kind of a head scratcher. Losing to Cathedral, the opener, like they did, it was not even much of a close game in the second half. And then Center Grove, it ended up being 42-19. They were in that game, in the second half at least. But yeah, just very unusual to see this out of Ben Davis. And, it happens, it's kind of cycles happen like this. And I still think they're going to be a team people don't want to see at the end of the year, but they still have a running back, Elijah Price, who's as good as any running back in the area, probably in the state. He's super versatile. He's healthy. He's carrying the ball a lot. Anytime they have him, it's going to keep defensive coordinators guessing. So, I still give them a chance. I think some of the positions they just have to kind of get some experience at, including quarterback.
Who's surprised you the most and why so far?
From a positive standpoint?
Yes.
That's a good question. I mean, talking about the, probably at the 6A level, I would say Lawrence North maybe slightly, although I think the jury's a little bit out on them still. They haven't played. They've kind of played a lighter schedule to this point, and they play Tech on Friday. They should win that game. So they'll be 5-0, going into Ben Davis next week at Ben Davis, and then Warren. They've got a gauntlet there at Ben Davis, at Warren, and then Center Grove at home, weeks 6, 7, and 8. So they've got some real tests coming up. They have, their receiving core though, is Davion Chandler. People know about him. I mean, he's been outstanding. He's just a big play guy for them, and they really have leaned on him to create some big plays. I was looking that up. I think he's averaging over 20 yards per catch. Of course, going to IU, and he's just a guy who he's not really a one type of catch type of receiver, or he's not just only a down the sideline guy. He's not afraid to go over the middle, and he makes plays that are for his size that are pretty unique. So, but they have a really good core. Demario Moore, another senior, has been really good for them. He's a sprinter, really fast receiver. I think he's a guy who could play at the next level for sure. And then a sophomore named Monsoon Sales, who is a big-time prospect. And I think I'm going to write something on. We got a lot of sophomores this season who are starting to show why they're going to be really good. He's maybe the one of the top ones. He already has 5 touchdown catches this season. He's a big receiver. He's a little bit different than Chandler from that standpoint. But they're I don't know if they're a surprise. They're sort of a surprise because Lawrence North hasn't been, just at the top of 6A in football. So I'd probably put them up there. 6A, I wouldn't say there's been a ton. I was surprised by Fishers beating HSC last week, just from a game standpoint. Maybe the biggest surprise of all was some of the scores we saw last week. I wrote this morning about Martinsville, and they were down 35 points to Decatur Central in the first half, and they ended up coming back and winning 39-38, one of the wildest games you would ever hear of. I went back and watched that game yesterday. Went down to Martinsville and talked to those guys, and then wrote a story that ran this morning. But just amazing that they were able to accomplish that. You just don't see that in high school. The running clock was almost, if it would have been to halftime at 35, it would have been a running clock, and there's no chance of that even happening. But they were able to at least score before halftime. And then they held Decatur out, held them on their last drive of the first half barely. And then Decatur had another drive in the third quarter to they ended up kicking a field goal, but they're at like the 8-yard line. That would have also got the running clock going with the touchdown. So they staved that off. They got a couple big plays. They got a block punt. And things just started snowballing completely, and they end up winning that game. So you won't see a wilder finish in that. And then Brebeuf Guerin was 69-62, and both teams were around 800 yards offense. So a couple of games you just don't ever see games like that. So just wild stuff.
And as far as the season is going, is it heading in the direction where you thought the players that you thought were going to be the top players, are they coming through and performing?
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I think next week I'm going to look, maybe next week or the week after, kind of look at some of the Mr. Football candidates. I haven't gone down that route too much yet because just don't have a lot of games. We only have 4 games in the books at this point. We'll have 5 next week, by next week. So then you can start kind of, laying it out a little bit, but yeah, I mean, we'll see. Mark Zachary, I don't know what his numbers are going to look like. Right now, I kind of thought going in, he might be the favorite. It's harder though when you're a defensive guy first. He does play offense, he plays receiver, but like I said, their quarterback situation's been a little bit unsettled at this point. Inexperienced, I would say, maybe is a better word for high school players. But yeah, so I don't know. We'll see. I would like to dive more into that and take a look. It's a really good season. This season's been fun so far. It's been there's a ton of talent, a ton of teams, I think, in 6A and beyond that there's none of the classes seem to me like they're a surefire state champion which makes it fun. I think New Pal, Chittard in 4A, you look down the line, what could be a regional game would be a lot of fun, I would say. And in 5A looks like a lot of teams could win it. So just it looks like a year where the tournament should be a lot of fun. Should be really interesting.
And it's always good, but it seems to be getting better each year. And then that kind of takes me to recruiting to the next level. We've talked about this before and how Purdue has kind of been, as far as Purdue and Indiana, Purdue has owned the state in recruiting between those two. Indiana, of course, has not had a successful program. Kurt Cignetti looking like he is starting to turn that around, especially if early indications are what we can expect for the future. And there's no reason not to think that right now. Man, Indiana can make some inroads quickly into recruiting inside the state if their success that they have had recently continues.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think it's just, we talk about that a lot, is the momentum of and especially, Cignetti in his first year. It's just so important, I think, to, maybe you don't have, maybe you're not a national championship team or whatever. I mean, you don't have to. I think you just create some momentum, and we already see it, I think, with IU football right now. I think there's some positive momentum after that. You beat UCLA, even though they're down. But yeah, it kind of translates to your recruiting too. And you look at that 2026 class, and there's definitely some guys out there like Jeremy Finch Jr. at talking about that Warren team. He's on that defensive line, and he's going to have, he already does have just a ton of offers and things like that. But then you've got, guys down in that class at Center Grove, like Kobe Cherry, who's actually injured right now, but brother of Tyler Cherry, who you would think you'd have some inroads there, with that connection. And, he's a player I think you're really going to want. Dominic Berry, who's also at Center Grove. So there's some really good players in that 26 class. And then, like I said, the 27 class, I think, is another one where you can really get in and see some guys who are going to be like Sales at Lawrence North. And you've had good experience of bringing Lawrence North players in already, so you think that would help as well. And certainly Chandler going there, and he's connected to Omar Cooper. I think we talked about that last week. So you have those connections from Cooper to Chandler to Sales, and hopefully that you think that would work in your favor. It's all about connections and relationships and those sorts of things, and also your need of positions, and certainly a guy like Finch who's on the D line. You always need D linemen. You're not going to turn down a D lineman. Those are maybe the hardest to come by as far as positions go. So other than quarterback. So, but yeah, I think there's a lot of guys out there that are interesting players, and I think with this momentum IU has, it certainly can't hurt with perception and the just the overall vibe of what the program is right now.
Yeah, and it's so important to have a state school that is successful, I think, to build high school football, because otherwise those guys will go in so many different directions. And although there is Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana, they're more of a national recruiting program. I'm not to say that they don't recruit in state at all. It doesn't seem like they really go after it hard. They're a national brand. Purdue has led recruiting because of some of the recent success they've had, but that is obviously not happening right now. Ryan Walters in his second year, this could be a very struggle bus year for them. Media picked them to finish last, and I thought that, well, maybe they could, after that performance against Indiana State, I said, well, maybe they're not that bad, but then Notre Dame comes in and just obliterates Purdue in West Lafayette at Ross-Ade. So probably not going to be a good year for them. I think they only have 4 Big Ten home games, someone just mentioned, which means that's a lot of time and trouble on the road.
Yeah, that's tough, and hard to believe that was the score against Notre Dame. That was just and maybe the worst thing that happened is Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. Man, that was a stunner too. But I agree. I think anytime Notre Dame, they're kind of like Ohio State, I in my opinion, as far as like they'll come in on some in-state guys only when they really, those are like the top guys, and they've gotten some. They've definitely obviously Mark Zachary is going to be going there, and they've got some good in-state players recently. Jack Kaiser, who ended up going there from Pioneer. Drake Bowen was Mr. Football, so it's almost like they're Notre Dame, which goes without saying. So they kind of get who they want most of the time, and it's kind of like Ohio State does that to our in-state kids too. They come in and they have a pretty high batting average, I would say, when it comes to getting who they want to get. So that's when you're battling those Notre Dame and Ohio State, especially, it feels like you're up against it. For kids around here, those schools carry a lot of weight, obviously, for across the country and especially here. But yeah, I think if you can get that, those next tier of guys, kind of pick your spots. Purdue does have a lot of in-state guys on the team. Like, Dylan Thieneman was an absolute steal for them from Westfield. He's been great for Purdue. Some of the other guys haven't really panned out as much as of yet. So the jury's out a little bit, I would say, but yeah, if you can kind of and even from a perception standpoint of recruiting in-state players, sometimes that's a big deal too, is how high school coaches perceive you. Are you working to make those connections? Are you trying to, so when your time does come, you're getting positive feedback from the high school coaches about your program. I mean, those are important things, believe it or not. I mean, it might be something people overlook, but I hear from those coaches, and I hear, hey, and there was a coach at, Purdue, this has been years ago, but was very, everyone was sort of negative about it because he just didn't recruit the state very well. So, it does matter, and believe it or not, those things, word of mouth and putting time in and those sorts of things do matter in recruiting and it doesn't always matter the most. It might not be the highest thing that matters, but it does.
Absolutely, because you have to give them the attention they deserve. You never know when that superstar is going to come along, and if you have ignored them, well, they're not going to be very helpful when the guy comes that you want.
Absolutely, yeah. That's that's kind of that's how it works. I mean, and most of those coaches do it. They do put the time in. They do. It's something that is important. They know it's important. Because they know coaches talk, and you don't want to do wrong by somebody. That you could benefit from later. It's sort of it's a relationship business for sure. So, but yeah, I think, the jury's out on IU and Purdue as far as that goes right now. These coaches are pretty early in their tenure. I think Walters has done a good job, making connections. They've been in on guys, honestly, who, have gone elsewhere too, that it's just like, man, I mean, they haven't quite closed the door on some guys, but they've been in the like John Anthony Hall at Fishers. They were, they were probably the leader until Stanford. He went out to Stanford, really liked his visit, and ended up committing there, which he's a great academic guy as well as an athlete. So it makes sense he liked Stanford, but, they've just been right there with some guys too. So they've done a good job. It just hasn't, obviously last week's score, that they're almost two separate things entirely, but you lose some momentum for sure when things like that happen.
And you have to make a program a place that is desired to go by in-state guys. You have to make guys want to go to, whether it's Purdue or Indiana. If Kurt Cignetti is able to complete this turnaround that he has started for the Hoosiers, they've in first 3 weeks, they've already won as many games as they did all of last season, and as many Big Ten games in as many tries. So he's well on his way. But if he does that this season and has the season that I expect Indiana to start 6-0. As crazy as that sounds, to be bowl eligible that early with 4 more home games to play. But that's going to start getting attention from guys. The more success they have, the more they're on TV. The last week against UCLA, playing in the Rose Bowl, that gets attention from guys, especially when you put a beatdown like that down. They're like, okay, I think I want to be a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, and if you can start 6-0, then national. I don't even think it's really. I think it's still. I think people were kind of turned their head, they're kind of like, oh, wow, they beat UCLA like that. But like you said, I mean, if you can get to 6-0 and really get that national buzz going, I mean, then who knows? You could have, I know, there's like, there's a uniqueness to, this story with IU is just, it's fresh. I think people would be, writers and national broadcasters would be drawn to that, and I'm not saying I know any, but who knows? You could have a college game day type of thing or whatever, who knows, Big Ten game media, whatever it is, the Big Ten come in or, that doesn't always mean everything, but it does create some positive buzz for your team. And obviously if you can get to 6-0, people are going to be talking about you. And that's really, a lot of programs aren't able to capitalize when a new coach comes in, everyone's excited. And then you go 2-10 or 3-9, and it's like, well, that's kind of the end of that initial buzz. Right now, IU's still riding that wave of new coach, great start, So yeah, I mean, you want to carry that as far as you can take it, and a lot of teams aren't able to kind of get that win beneath them right away, because a lot of times those are programs that needed a change. So it takes a little while, but yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, if they start 6-0, it's only going to be more people jumping on the bandwagon, which is what you want if you're IU.
Kyle Neddenriep from IndyStar with us. Basketball, huge weekend visits for Indiana, Kyle, as Braylon Mullins comes in for a visit. Trent Sisley comes back up from Montverde Academy for a visit, and Eric Ribe will come for a visit. Braylon Mullins really being pulled in a lot of different directions right now as Kentucky is working hard to get him in and get his former Indiana teammate, AAU teammate Malachi Moreno in his ear. UConn is working hard on him as well. Of course, Trent Sisley has been very, very well recruited by Matt Painter. And then you've got Eric Ribe, who's an out-of-stater. But it's a huge, huge weekend for Indiana basketball.
Yeah, I touched base with Trent's dad this week just to, check in with him, and said that he just went to Purdue for his visit there, said it went really well. Of course, looking forward to IU. And we talked mostly about kind of his Montverde experience so far. It sounds like it's going really well for him. So, that's good to hear. But yeah, Braylon Mullins, it's interesting. There's a lot of UConn. I think UConn's a real factor here. I think IU obviously is very much a factor. Kentucky, I'm not sure. They did take a player who is similar position wise and everything. So we'll see. But yeah, I think it's starting to take shape a little bit as far as I think we'll see some things happen not too much longer, really. I mean, I think it'll start to be, and not saying they're going to decide right away or whatever, but yeah, I think things are starting to take shape a little bit.
Absolutely. What's up next for you, my friend?
I've got a story coming tomorrow on you remember Jim Sorgi, the Colts backup under Peyton or with Peyton Manning as quarterback there, and his son's playing quarterback at Tri-West. So I got a little story coming on him and his son, and all of our predictions and stuff. We got our rankings are out today, Super 25 and all those things. And so then getting set for the weekend. So it should be another fun weekend of football.
Looking forward to it. Kyle Neddenriep from IndyStar, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you.
You bet. Thanks, Jim.
Absolutely. Make sure you're a subscriber to the IndyStar. Keep the local papers alive and keep following Kyle Neddenriep to stay up on all things high school in the state of Indiana. More coming up here on the Indiana Sports Speed Radio from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios right after this.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off your first order.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouthwatering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Speed Radio on this Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us. Just finished up with Kyle Neddenriep from the IndyStar. Kurt Cignetti met with the media and talked about last week's performance, in addition to the one coming up this week against Charlotte, as Indiana looks to close out their non-conference portion of their schedule and go to 4-0 on this young season. Surprise to most people, as Indiana picked to finish second to last by the Big Ten media, which that's going to be kind of funny when Kurt Cignetti wins Coach of the Year. And remember, you heard that here first, as I'm definitely predicting that. But here's what Coach Kurt Cignetti had to say about last week's performance and then looking ahead to Charlotte.
Good win Saturday.
First conference game. Did a lot of good things in the game. Did a great job on third down offensively, 9 of 12, 5 of 5 touchdowns in the red area. I think for the year, we're 6-0 in the turnover ratio. Taken it away 6 times, have not turned the ball over. Responded to their field goals or scores with scores. Had a 90-yard drive, an 87-yard drive, 275s. Defense held them to under 250 yards total offense and 2 of 8 on third down. So there weren't any real splash plays on special teams in this game. So, good solid performance. All eyes on Charlotte, team that's proven capable of playing up at a very competitive level. Last year they played Maryland, led at halftime, 1-score game in the fourth quarter. Florida was a ball game throughout the entire game. And Carolina this year is a 1-score game in the third quarter. So they have a lot of transfers. They have a lot of athletes. Their defensive line is big, and they can move. They got a receiver that can really go. So, there's a standard we do everything to, and we want to keep improving as a team. And we've got to have a great week of preparation. It starts with the staff, and stay humble and hungry as we prepare for this next opponent.
Kurt Cignetti talking about the ramifications of the win and looking ahead, as that's what it's time to do. But same old calm, matter-of-fact method every week. And that's one of the reasons Indiana is being successful right now, to be quite honest with you. It's because they have a leader. They have a leader that is leading, and he's leading by being consistent day in, day out, sending a consistent message, playing to the standard. You'll hear Kurt Cignetti say a lot of things, repeating, but it's not just to be repetitive. It is to get this message sunk into his team, playing to a standard every day, every practice, every game, coaching to a standard. They have to reach this standard to be at that standard. You can't just hit at it now and then. And it's just something that Indiana football has not seen. And it's great to see. It's hard to believe that it's taken this long to find someone like that. But that's the case, and doesn't matter. It is what it is. But he is definitely building. And the fact that he's able to do this with all of the pieces that were questioned so much by so many people, whether or not Indiana was going to even be able to compete because they had so many quote unquote mid-major players. Man, you should, if you're following college athletics now after the last few years, you should have seen enough that it doesn't matter where these guys come from. If they're being brought in, somebody sees something in them. There was a reason that they were successful at JMU, because the coaching staff, they made their players play to a standard, and they brought in and had the players that could and would do just that. Kurt Cignetti has rebuilt that quickly at Indiana, and it's not just with JMU players. Yeah, they had 13 come over, but there are 85 guys on scholarship. So there are guys that came in like Curtis Rourke and Miles Cross from Miami of Ohio. There are guys that were already here that are just through player development. It's a combination of all these things. Really good coaching, smart game planning, and very, very good. I can't think of the word I'm looking for, but scheming. They have a plan, and they put that plan to work. But it's not the same plan every week. So if it were, it would surely be easy for the opposition to just line up and take aim. That's Kurt Cignetti. This is not his first rodeo. he doesn't approach each opponent the same way. So why should he allow the opponent, each different opponent, to approach him the same way? Not going to happen. So I think you can see all those things that are coming to fruition now and working out for these Indiana Hoosiers. Kurt Cignetti also talking about Charlotte this week. Let's see if I can hit that just right. I may be off, but we'll see. And but they've got some problems at quarterback.
Yeah. Well, they've played 3 guys. They played 2 guys in the last game, brought a guy in the fourth quarter, a little older guy. The backup was a younger guy. So, we'll prepare for both schematically, more so in terms of what they do, what they like to do. They have a receiver that can really go, that number 3, and a tight end 18's good player. So, maybe the younger guy has a little bit of a liver arm and his mobility might be a little more, but the older guy has got the experience, kind of the moxie, understands how to play. So it won't affect our game plan a whole lot.
Indiana, you can tell again, they set the plan going in. And I love it because in covering Hoosier football, 7 years prior, it's just a different tone. You can just hear the difference. They're not trying to be, well, I'm sure there are things that we don't know. I know there are things that we don't know about that they work on, but there are also things that are just kind of common sense that they're more open about. And I love the fact of the openness of Kurt Cignetti. It is a breath of fresh air, but it also puts more, I think it puts more confidence from people because he's telling you, hey, here's kind of what we're going to do. Here is how it's going to be. And that's kind of how it has gone. So I think people appreciate being treated that way. They didn't appreciate the 6 years of quarterback races year after year and then having one in the middle of the season. That stuff is ridiculous and it wears on a fan base, especially when it's like you're churning. So Indiana just seemed to spin its wheels a lot before. I have seen zero wheel spinning. They are just grabbing traction and moving farther. Now they're going to get tested as the season goes on without question. Obviously, this week is not quite that. They're a 28-point favorite this week. You're not going to get the great numbers for Indiana anymore, partly because they've outscored their opponents 50-7. Again, let me repeat that. Over their first 3 games, Indiana has outscored their opponents 50-7. That's pretty good. So, now is that going to continue? It might continue this week. Who's going to be able to slow them down? When they get into Big Ten play, can Maryland slow them down? I'm not sure. Now, I'm not expecting to score 50 points a game in the Big Ten. And, of course, that number is helped a lot by the 77 they hung on Western Illinois. But when they play teams like Maryland, I still think that Indiana is going to be scoring up into the 30s. And if you blink, they'll score again. And it's not because they're trying to run the score up. I had someone talking to me about this yesterday, that Cignetti's going to run the score up every chance he gets. He's not trying to run the score up. He's not running the score up. He's just sending his offense onto the field to do their job. And if they do their job, the result of that is a score. Every series, that is going to be the plan, to go score. Every series. And the Indiana is going to treat it like that all season long. And I think that is also going to help them to win games. Because when you have a team that can score so many different ways, and that's something I've talked about, Indiana, there's so much versatility to this offense. It all starts, ends, and starts and ends with Curtis Rourke and his poise. But that poise carries over. It carries over to his team. It carries over to his offensive linemen, who, if they get into a third and whatever situation, especially as you saw last week at UCLA, when they were at so many of those third down situations, but converted them. That was the name of the game right there. My goodness, that conversion rate, incredible. But that comes from poise. And the more they have that, the more that they get to do that as the season goes along, as the games get tougher, as the pressure builds to become bigger, you're going to be used to that. That's going to be like old hat. And where teams of before would either feel the pressure and crumble, this team is going to be used to it. They're going to chew pressure up and spit it out. That's the difference between teams that win close games, that win games they're not supposed to win. When you surprise people by doing things that they didn't expect you to be able to accomplish, and to continue to be successful in tough times, that's what does that for you. Gritty says that Mike Davis is now an assistant coach at Memphis. Wow, I did not know that. Very cool little bit of information. Big weekend for Indiana, basketball-wise, visiting, as I mentioned. So, not that has anything to bear up to it. Someone just said the point spread is out and up. It's only up a half a point. Is that right? Yeah. 28 and a half. Yeah, big deal. If you're going to give up 28, what's another half a point? Do they cover the spread this week? That's the question. And that's wild that's the questions we're now asking about Indiana. Do they cover the spread? Whew. Wow. 28 points on a Charlotte team that they've fought. This is the program that has not been a Division I program for very long, 5 years, but they haven't really climbed, but they're fighting. So that 28 points, that's pretty healthy. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if it's not that I'm not confident that Indiana can cover it. Of course they can, but I'm not sure that in Indiana, after getting that UCLA game, then again, like I said, every time that Curt Cignetti sends his offense onto the field, he wants a touchdown. And more importantly, every time he sends the defense on the field, he wants a shutout this weekend in the first half, especially on the last drive of the first half. Indiana has given that up so far. Every time a score in the last drive of the half this season is kind of crazy. But so far this season, Charlotte has last weekend, you got a 1-point win over Gardner-Webb, 27-26. They stayed within 18, which sounds good, but they scored 20 points on the University of North Carolina, who beat Minnesota. Don't forget. So Charlotte can put points on the board, but that's going to be a good telltale sign. I'm going to guess that they manage 10 to 13 points against Indiana. Maybe they may be better than, I don't know. I was going to compare them to UCLA, but yeah, Indiana's going to cover. We'll see. I don't know if they cover the spread or not. That's a lot. 41 total points in the game, probably. Indiana is really starting to click. The offense is starting to click. Every game, you're just another game in, and luckily they've stayed relatively healthy. Huge area of importance for the Hoosiers. So, let's see. Good for you, Skylar. Glad to hear that. But yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend and a fun rest of the week. Looking forward to talking to Coach Shannon Griffith tomorrow, and then later in the week we'll have some others join us to get you caught up. And then, of course, don't forget this weekend, the Hard Truth Indiana postgame football show takes place after Indiana's noon tilt with the Charlotte 49ers here in Bloomington as Indiana back on the home schedule. They'll have back-to-back home games, as after Charlotte, they will have Maryland the following week, and then they'll go to Northwestern to finish out the front portion of their schedule, at which time I think that they go 6-0 and become bowl eligible. Bowl eligible with 6 games remaining on their schedule and 4 home games. This is going to be a hell of a year, people. Purdue, boy, I feel bad for Ryan Walters because he's going to start feeling the heat. I think that UCLA is probably going to end up being the worst team in the Big Ten. Purdue is probably going to be right in front of them. And I'll have the Big Ten Power Index on the Hoosier.com out here in the next day or so, but not a lot of changes, but some changes. Indiana's going to rise, no doubt. Some teams will fall, but that bottom, I think the bottom is kind of taking place. And if I had to guess right now, the last 3 teams in order will be Northwestern, UCLA, and Purdue. Fortunately for Indiana, they play all 3 of those teams. And with 2 of them still yet to come, one, of course, at the end of the season, as Purdue will come in to Bloomington, and Indiana travels to Northwestern. That's on October 5th. We've got more coming up here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're back with it right after this.
Enjoy healthy, delicious meals at home without the hassle with the Fresh Fork. Chef-curated, ready-made meals delivered right to your doorstep. Proudly fueling IU athletes and now available to you with a menu that's always fresh and diverse, from hearty proteins to fresh salads. The Fresh Fork empowers you to make better food choices without compromising. Let the Fresh Fork help transform your lifestyle for a healthier way of living today at thefreshforkonline.com. Use promo code RADIO20 and get $20 off of your first order.
Country living is just a swing away. It can be hard to find the exact home that fits your family's needs, so there couldn't be a better time to build a new home with Property Shore Construction. Now building exclusively south of Bloomington within the Stonecrest Golf community. Choose from one of the gorgeous Stonecrest Signature Series house plans. We have several lots available with scenic views of the golf course. Contact Amy Rhoda with Revesco Real Estate for additional information. 812-583-0919 or go to mystonecrestliving.com. That's mystonecrestliving.com for more details.
Whether it's a night out with the family, after work with colleagues, or catching the game with friends, Bubba's 33 is the place for you. Bubba's 33 offers a mouth-watering menu of selections that are all made from scratch every day. The portions are big, but the prices are small. And with over 50 big screen TVs, you'll never miss the big game. Bubba's 33, pizza, burgers, beer.
Looking for someone to cater your next corporate event, family reunion, or tailgate? To some, a garnish may be nothing more than just a decoration put last on a plate. But in Bloomington, catering starts with Garnish Catering. Serving all of Bloomington and surrounding areas, Garnish Catering is waiting to help make your next event one to remember. Planning a great event shouldn't have to be stressful. Whether we quote you just for catering or a total event package, you can trust that you're making the right choice with Garnish Catering. Visit garnishcatering.com. That's garnishcatering.com. Garnish Catering is a proud partner of WOW Food Group.
If you're looking for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Cheryl Sizemore has over 2 decades of experience, and that could be the difference in you getting the home you want in today's tough housing market. Reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from RE/MAX Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com. In the market for a new or used vehicle? Well, nobody beats the prices and selection of Andy Moore Honda in Bloomington. Right now, get a brand new Honda with no payments for 90 days. That's right, 2023 and 2024 Honda Pilots, HRVs, CRVs, Honda Ridgelines, payment-free for 90 days. Or get 0.9% APR financing for 36 months on a 2023 Honda Ridgeline. Go to AndyMooreHonda.com and get more to your door. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Wednesday. Appreciate you being with us as always. Hope everybody doing well. Looking at some games coming up. Michigan State with a big game this weekend as they'll take on Boston College. But if this game is at Michigan State, which it looks to be, Michigan State is getting 6.5 points. I understand Boston College has played well, but so is Michigan State. That's a game I'm going to have to look at, man. I would. It's hard to turn down 6.5 on Michigan State, but I have to check that out. But there'll be other Big Ten games that we'll want to check out as well. But the Colts, man, they've got to get things fixed. They cannot stop the run. They have just their offense has not been very fluid. They haven't looked very good. It's just they're looking ragged. And while the expectations were not to win the Super Bowl per se, they were not that they were going to look ragged. And that's about as nice as you can say. The Green Bay Packers, who, even though that game was on the road, the Colts were favored in that game because the Packers were without Mr. Love, but they were still able to get the win. That's not a good look for Anthony Richardson. It's not a good look for Shane Steichen. It's a worse look for the Colts GM, and his job is looking more and more tenuous with each and every game as we go forward in this season. So the Colts not off to a good start, man. 0-2, and it is not good. When you start 0-2, things usually don't go well. But hopefully they'll get things turned around. Hopefully Anthony Richardson can get it done. Pat McAfee said the Colts have had a tough time stopping the run, and they stay in the same front for the most part. They don't really make a lot of defensive adjustments, and they just didn't do a good job at all yesterday. That's from Bill Belichick, actually. So knows what he's talking about. And that's not good when you're not doing well and you're not doing anything about it. And that's how that seems. Not fun. Not fun at all. But hopefully they'll get things turned around, and maybe we'll get to talk to Matt Taylor this weekend about that as well. But we will be back tomorrow, of course, to get back at it as the week carries on with this week and visits, lots of visits on the basketball side, games all the way around. Everybody will start to preview those, start looking at some numbers. Don't forget to go to ESPN, the Fantasy tab, and the Indiana Sports Beat group. Pick in there. Good week for me last week. 8-2, baby. Yeah. Oh, yeah, baby. Especially after the first week when I only got 5 picks in. And then the next time I don't even know what happened, but I'm catching up. I'm catching up slowly. But big thanks to Kyle Neddenriep and our buddy K-Bro, Kevin Brockway, for coming on today. Appreciate him so much. And Skyler, getting better and back to the home front tomorrow. Appreciate you. Appreciate each and every one of you. Without you, we don't have a reason for being here, and we're so grateful to do this each and every day from the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios. We're back tomorrow for the same thing, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.